Welcome back to 3 Point Firefighter. Today's guest is BJ Breecher. Now, BJ's been in the fire service for over 15 years. Now, he's a veteran spanning volunteer, private EMS, part-time, and career roles to include wildland and structural firefighting. He's currently a firefighter, advanced EMT in the Deforest Windsor Fire and EMS Department in Deforest, Wisconsin. He's a lieutenant for the City of Verona Fire Department in Verona, Wisconsin, and he is also a board member for the Brew City FOOLS. Away from the fire service, he loves to hunt and fish. He likes to work on his ATV. I guess it stays broken because he works on it. It seems like a loop thing to me. Don't know. He stays fit for duty. He's in good shape. He is in good shape. He's not in Jake Barnes' good shape. I did like 4 push-ups the other day. I mean, obviously not in a roll and not the up part. Just that it's not important. And he loves to spend time with his girlfriend, Michelle, and her 2 sons. And with that, BJ Breecher. Today's episode is brought to you by Fire Facilities. Make training count with their custom-made, all-steel live fire training facilities. Their made-in-the-USA towers and burn rooms are the best for preparing, responding, and surviving the challenges you face every day. So what'd you do the acquired structure, the training you did?
As I mentioned in my my message to you, I thought it was very ironic that you brought up the searching off the line thing with Shepard the other day. And what we did is we've been slowly working on these things over the course of the past 3 months. A little background: my shift, there's 3 of us. And we are a medic service. I'm an advance. I'm a medic. But the 2 guys that are on my shift are medics. One's a very good, well, they're both very good medics, but one teaches at the technical college. And the other has been with the department for a while. And they're kind of green on the fire side. And I was, full disclosure, I was not happy being moved from A shift to C shift because I had a bang up medic who was actually a pretty solid firefighter too. And then we had another guy on shift that was pretty decent, but I wasn't very happy being moved to this green shift. So I'm like, oh Christ, and not that they weren't bad guys. It just, I want to be with the A team,
Right.
But I'm just like, and I had a meeting with my union rep and my chief, who ironically, my union rep was also the medic on the original shift that I was on.
Oh, wow.
Kind of awkward, but
I was going to say it's a little awkward.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I don't want to make this move. And right now we're a smaller department. So for me to go into the chief's office and talk shit with him, it is not a stretch at all. But I felt that, they just decided I was being moved. And I'm like, okay, this is some kind of bullshit. You couldn't sit down and say, hey, BJ, this is what we're thinking. How do you feel about this? Right. And
which I want to ask you something in a minute after you get done with your story. You're reminding me of something.
Yeah.
But
I was told I was being moved because there was another move that was going to be made, but there was personality conflicts with the other shift. And I'm like, that's not my problem. Okay. Those 2 children need to work their bullshit out. That's not my problem. And, and then it was brought up, well, we need somebody with a strong fire background on that side, which at one point I'm like, okay, now you're just jerking me off to make me feel better about this move. But in reality, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, okay, he does have a valid point, but I'm still not happy with this. And I don't know if you want to call it a moral victory. He's like, okay, well, I'll think about it, which I know my chief. That means no, just like leather helmets. He was going to think about it, and he said no. So I knew that was coming. So with that being said, I went over to the shift, and that shift to come to a happy ending has become my project. It really has. And it's become my passion project because, number one, I found out, or I have the vibe, they haven't come out and said it, but I think these guys were like, boy, we really wish we knew more about the fire side, but we don't know who to talk to here. And then I've got kind of a reputation of being an asshole, okay, and 2, of being a hard charger. So
Yeah.
I think they were kind of concerned about that too. But I will say that anyone who works with me doesn't take long to figure me out. I'm an asshole, but I'm not a jerk. Okay,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
No, no,
Um,
I love where you're going with this.
yeah. And I have a coaching background. So I took an opportunity to look at their side of things like, okay, these guys have fire one, and some things have been said about these guys in the past on the fire side. Okay, you know what? This is my shift. This is going to be my passion project. I want to put together a really good shift. And after about maybe, I don't know, maybe about a month of doing stuff on my own, I'm just like, one day I'm like, hey guys, so what do you guys got going on today? Well, I got this and this and this, and they've got their own responsibilities at the station. I said, I tell you what, at about 2 o'clock, we're going to go out in the apparatus bay and we're gonna pull a line, and we're not going to spray water. I call it a quick hit drill. We're
Mhm.
just going to hook up 100 feet of the hose. We're going to charge it. We're not going to spray it. And we're just going to pull it around stuff as a crew. And they were very open to that. And then, like, the following shift, we did something else. And then the thing just kind of snowballed, where all of a sudden they're coming to me asking questions. And
Mhm.
then they were sending me email messages like, hey, I saw this on Facebook. What do you think? And this thing just started snowballing. And it really turned into something very special, in my opinion. So yesterday, and we've been going out to these acquired structures. Like we spent Christmas Day turning turning windows into doors,
Mhm.
and then opening the floor up and doing a rich scenario with a 2-to-1 pulley system for pulling people out of a basement. You
Okay.
know,
Nice.
um, yesterday we worked on search off of a hose line. The cool thing was, and this is I think a testament to what we're doing on our shift, is we hired a couple new people, the floaters on our 24s to accommodate Kelly days for some people. And it's been said twice by some of the new people, I really like working on C shift because we do stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so it's so important to get out there and get these, and these two people in particular, one very new, like he works for another department, and when I had my structure fire on Monday, he was there with another department too, and he came walking up to say hi, and he's still got his intern shield on his helmet, so he's green as a grass, man. But I mean, for him to say, you know what, I like working on C shift because of stuff like this. Well, he's got
Yeah.
water running down his head after spraying water, and turning ceiling tiles into frisbees with
Yeah.
150 psi. It makes me feel good that people now want to come to this shift or look forward to working on it because we're gonna do some shit.
Right. I,
Yeah,
I don't understand people that don't want to train. And if you come to our job, if you do our
yeah,
job and you don't want to train, you're
yeah,
kind of a bag of shit, in my opinion, because that means one of two things. One, you think you know it all, which
right,
I don't know anybody that knows it all. Or two, you're just trying to use our job as a day off from maybe another job. So
absolutely.
I've been a bag of shit, in the fire department before. I've done that before. I've made sure that the recliners didn't float up to the ceiling.
Yep,
I've done that.
yep,
Uh, but it's our job. I mean, it's
yes,
like, having a dentist that hates dealing with teeth. It doesn't
yep,
make any sense.
absolutely.
But you said something early I want to ask you about, and this was not planned by any means, but
Sure.
it made me think about something. So you said you got transferred
Yep,
um, uh, onto another shift you didn't want to go.
yep,
So
yep,
a couple of years ago, and I don't know where I land on this conversation. So I've been an admin and I've been obviously on the floor,
yep,
but they did a bunch of moves. They
yep.
moved probably 20, 30 people, if not out of an 80 people department.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
this made people very mad. So what I heard was, they don't have the right to move me. I've been here forever. I heard a lot
Right.
of entitlement. So
Mhm.
I was like, having come up in the fire service, I was I went where I was told. I didn't question it.
Yep,
Never.
yep.
So I was coming at it from that aspect. Now I'm not saying
Mhm.
that's correct. So I'm kind of
Okay.
flying by wire here.
Yeah,
So I was kind of like put off by this. I'm like, you go where you're told to go. This is a job. If
yep.
McDonald's says you're doing fries a day, you're doing fries a
Mhm,
day.
mhm.
But then the more I thought about it, the more I saw morale plummeting, right? So
Yep,
then looking at the moves individually, you could see there was a pattern of trying to help certain people
Mm-hmm.
that maybe were very, very good friends with the chiefs,
Yep. Yep.
and I started looking at that pattern. I was like, okay, I can see where they're upset with that because to your
Mm-hmm.
point, why move a problem when you can fix a problem? So if you're moving somebody because you don't want to deal with the problem, eat a bunch of puppet dicks because that don't make sense. That's not good leadership. So
Right.
then a guy said, and this is the part that got me. So I'm still on the fence with all this. So maybe you can walk me through it. But then a guy said, you know what? Why do we bid on spots per the contract if we don't get to stay in those spots until we want to be moved?
Okay.
I started thinking, and I'm like, you know what? That is actually a very, very good point. All this to say, I'm still kind of on the fence, but
Yep.
I think where I'm leaning is if you got good leadership and you got good chiefs,
Mm-hmm.
moving people like that for the betterment of the department, truly for the betterment of the department, not using that phrase, but truly,
Uh-huh.
doing that,
Right.
I think is good. But if you're using it to punish people or nepotism just to help your friends out, it's kind of
Sure.
fucked up. So I'm working through this. Tell me
Yeah.
what you think.
Well, I think there's some truth to that. And with you mentioning that, I kind of that casts a different way of looking at that I should consider.
Hmm.
And that's a great thing about having a network of people that have like minds. With you bringing up that point, I start to look at myself as maybe being selfish,
Hmm.
and I can be that way sometimes. Full disclosure. Um, I think if I could go back and maybe I will, I'm going back right now and analyze the situation. I think that if Chief maybe would have pitched it to me a little bit better
Hmm.
and saying, hey, listen, we've got an issue. Number one, we've got these guys aren't getting along. And I know the two guys. And I'm like, fucking grow up, you two. Seriously, grow up. All right. But the other angle, saying, hey, listen, the guys over on C shift are a little green and we need to move some people around.
Hmm.
This is why we're doing this, and maybe stroke me a little bit. Maybe that might help, and I do have a very good relationship with my chief where I can go in his office, close the door, and without being punished, he can tell me, hey, keep it down. The walls are thin in here.
Yeah.
I can drop a couple F bombs and he can throw an F bomb right back at me. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because, I think he understands where sometimes my spirit comes from. It's coming from the right place. And I try to make it come from the right place as, opposed to being looking at as being confrontational, being pompous, and being self-serving. You know, and I think, and I've never really been on that end of things as far as HR is concerned. So I don't have
Knock on
much.
wood, quick. Knock on that wood.
Dude, I tell you what, we could talk about that. I love what I'm doing right now, and I love being at that front line. But you can never say never, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I think. I think that makes sense when you are bidding for positions. Why bid for
Yeah.
something when a year from now they're going to send me? And I
Yes.
think that when you have to sit down and have a conversation with admin saying, okay, we are bidding for these things, but why am I going to bid for this just to be sent someplace else? Now, on the flip side of that, if I'm the one bidding, maybe I should have the mindset of, okay, so I'm going to station 2.
Hmm.
Station 2 has all the guys I like to work with. They specialize on things that I'm very interested in.
Hmm.
Why do I want to go there only to have my heart broken in a year or two and be sent to station 9 on the outskirts of town where it's basically a retirement home and the call volume is less and we go out for an occasional CO alarm every now and then and maybe we get called over to help station 4 because they need a RIT team and we're just going to be yard gnomes and stand in the front yard, stuff
Yard
like that.
gnomes.
But
Love that.
I think you bring up a really good perspective on that. I've never looked at that way before.
So I'll tell you, it's so confusing because
Yep.
there's so many variables to make it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have shit leaders and you're doing it to make your buddies, go
Yep.
to a different place, that's one thing.
Yeah.
So I have a friend in California, a very good friend of mine, and their department, they bid. I want to say every year for new job. Everybody's moved.
Yeah.
If you have, and I may be getting this wrong, but I believe what it is if you have seniority and you're, say, a captain,
Yep.
chances are you get to stay where you want to stay if that's what you want, right?
Yep.
So it does a couple of things. It takes out the nepotism because it happens every year or every 2 years.
Uh-huh.
So everybody knows they're getting moved, and it's
Yep.
part of the job. It's just
Yep.
so there's hardly any complaining.
Yep.
And if you want to stay somewhere, it encourages you to gain seniority, gain a little rank,
Sure.
put in a little effort. So
Yep.
I think that is a good thing. My Here's the way in a perfect world, good leadership or bad leadership. If you moved every pikeman or backstep or what do you want to call them, you moved
Yep.
them every year. Then you moved
Yep.
your sergeant every 2 years, and you moved your
Uh-huh.
captain every 3 years.
Yep.
Everybody's going is learning a different part of the town, a different part of the trucks,
Mhm.
different level because sometimes it's industrial, sometimes it's near the river, uh,
Yep.
and then you're maintaining that continuity on the truck. You have people there every that stay there at least 2 years that know the roads, they know the hydrants, they know the businesses.
Mhm.
But it's so different than when I came on. When I came on, it was like, hey, you're going here, and I would have
Mhm.
never thought of going to my chief and saying, well, this ain't right, or I don't like this.
Yep.
There was one person I worked with who was very new as a lieutenant, and he was living a busy house. Great fireman. He likes to fight fire. He likes to get in it.
Mhm.
But he was moved to a slower place. He was a brand new lieutenant, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And all he did was complain. And he would come
Mhm.
to me and complain. And I'm like, at some point, it switches from me being a friend to me having to be the training officer and kind of support admin. In some way, I'm like, look, here's what
Sure.
I'm hearing. Let's
Yep.
call him Larry. So here's what I'm hearing, Larry. I'm hearing eyes. I deserve this. I want to be here. I want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't like this
Yep.
crew, whatever it is.
Yep.
I said,
Mhm.
you need to be thinking we's. So my new
Yep.
thing is everybody's talking about pronouns now. So
Yep.
now I've got a firefighter pronoun, and
Yeah.
my firefighter pronoun is they, them. That's what we need to think about. That's every decision we make
I.
in the
You
fire
know what?
service.
I like
What?
that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's my firefighter pronouns. Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with sex or my
Mhm.
gender. That's none of
Yeah.
your damn business. Stay out of it. But
Sure.
for
Yeah.
firefighters, doesn't that make sense? If you think about
Yeah.
it, that's our job. So
Yeah.
when I hear a bunch of me's and I's, I'm
Mhm.
like, it's like record scratch. I'm
Yeah.
like, but yeah, I know it's a complicated issue. I don't
Yeah.
know there's a great way to do it, but I think if you know you're being moved, I think if there's
Yeah.
a good solid reason,
Yeah.
like for you, they know you like to train, they know that you're a hard charger. Yeah,
Yeah.
put you with some new guys. I get it, but why
Yeah.
couldn't that be temporary? Why couldn't they say, hey, hey, BJ, listen, we got these green guys. We're going to put you over there for about a year. You do this
Yep.
favor for us, you
Yep.
get to go wherever you want.
Mhm.
That way they're stroking you a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's honest, right? And
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
giving you a Y and they're giving you an X fill. That seems like
Sure.
it'd be a better idea. I don't know.
Yep.
Complicated
I
issue.
think I think you're onto something. I really do. Thank you. Thank you, Jake.
See, and now I don't think anybody would ever expect you to come to the firehouse and go, hey, you want to know my pronouns? They're like, BJ's talking. You say, my firefighter pronouns. It's
That's
they,
funny.
them, bro. They, them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
searching off the line, it's funny because some people think it's like VEIS or VES. It's some advanced thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's the right thing. Why don't we
Sure.
train more on that? And,
Mhm.
like the VES thing, I've had so many people tell me, man, that's an advanced skill. No, it's not. It's literally going through a window and searching. What? Yeah. Or I've been told, well, it's just a one-story building. We don't need to worry about VES. I'm like, bro, you can do okay. Quick on the VES. It's window initiated search. Think of it that way. It's a
Yeah.
window initiated search. Do your fucking job and
Yeah.
don't. What is it? The guy that runs FDTN, Jim McCormack. He says there's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, there's no advanced skills. There's only mastery of the basics. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
brother, that's it. And think about this. When's the last time? And I don't know. I'm just asking. When's the last time you've done bunker drills?
Uh, so it's been a while. I do mask up drill every day before shift. I do it 3 times. But as far as like a bunker,
Mm-hmm.
um, I couldn't
I
tell you,
know.
man. Unless I'm working with probies.
Uh-huh.
Unless I'm working
Exactly.
with
Okay.
probies, you know.
But listen to
Yeah,
this.
it's been a
This
while.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So every person that died in a fire, before they died, about 10 to 15 seconds before they died, they were alive, right? So we should
Yeah.
view it as taking time off our clock and giving it to our victims. How do we do that? It's not going to be driving fast. Driving fast has been proven not to really do any good. I'm not saying don't
You may not
drive
even
with
alive.
purpose. Yeah. How can you serve them if you're in a car wreck? But we can, but if we get to the rig quickly and if we get our gear on quickly. So I was having this conversation with some people I was working with, and they're not real receptive. And I'm like, listen, you should be doing bunker drills. Well, we're not newbies. I'm like, okay, I watch you guys. I've done it. You know, you get a run come in and you move a little faster when it comes in as confirmed fire, but you move there and then, you know, you take your sweatshirt off and then you get in your gear slowly off the truck. Then you get in and they're like, yeah. I'm like, what if you practice bunker drills, not on the ground like you do as a recruit, but like put your stuff where it always is on the truck. And then the bunker drill starts from the time your captain's, you know, you say the captain's doing the drill. You go in the bedroom like you're in bed, okay? And you say, go. And you actually do it. And you go to your and you really try to put it on quickly, right? Then you do that 3 or 4 times. You'll notice that you probably gain 2 or 3 seconds, right? You do that drill enough, then you've gained probably 10, 15, 20 seconds, which means you're putting those 10 seconds on that victim's clock. So all this to say is, yeah, everybody looks at bunker drills as a new thing, a new people thing, but it's not. We should be doing that just like you do mask up drills. Bravo. But doing all that, doing it real world, meaning starting the bathroom, starting the kitchen, starting the bedroom, change places, and moving with purpose. So I'm telling these people this, right? I'm like getting really passionate. And I'm like, look, guys, do me a favor just today. Whenever you get a run, I don't care what it is, move with purpose and try to put your gear on as fast as you can to get on the truck quicker. Just try it. And they're like, I'm like, and don't make fun of it. Don't make it a joke, because if one of you makes a joke about it, the rest of you won't do it. And they're like, they're kind of hemming hawing around. I swear to you, BJ, it wasn't an hour later. They got a run, and the captain comes out just like he normally does. Hurry up, guys. We got to put our gear on. We got to do this. You know, he's making fun of the whole process. And I was just like, okay, you know, and that's talk about his pronouns. His pronouns was me, 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 right? He didn't want to try to do it probably because he was embarrassed, right? But that's putting his ego into play as opposed to taking it out and doing what's best for the people, the community he serves. I really think you need to be doing bunker drills pretty often. I think you need to do it realistically, and you got to look at putting time on their clock. And if you're not doing that, again, eat a bag of puppet dicks. If you're not thinking of them, eat a great big old bag of puppet dicks. Off because for those listening, we had a little Wi-Fi issue. You had to switch over to a phone. When we last we left off, we were talking puppet dicks and how lazy fighter. So,
Yeah. Is that different than Muppet Dicks?
oh, totally,
Oh,
totally.
okay.
Yeah, I mean that's Muppet. I like that coffee mug, by the way.
Oh,
Nice.
thanks.
Got Star
Yeah,
Wars,
the cool thing
brother.
about it is you put the coffee in the lightsaber with the amount of coffee and the heat, got the color that comes up. So as I drink it, the saber goes down. So
You're living in year 3000, bro. You're just flexing. You're flexing, bro. Flexing on all that Skrilla you got. All right, let's see. Well, we were talking about bunker drills, and I think they're overlooked.
Yeah.
I love that you do mass drills every day, because that's the same thing. I love Kyle Romagus's view on it, and you know the 0 second mask up drill.
Yeah.
And it's not for everybody. It's not for every situation. I have done it. I like it. If it's a confirmed car fire, structure fire, and you know you're going in immediately, you're not maybe you're not second or third or whatever. Putting your mask on, have everything on, and practice that way too. Practice pulling a hose. Practice working hard to see how bad it fogs up. Try some of the anti-fogging stuff. But you know, I see this all the time where people are taking so much time in the front yard getting ready. Some of them are great. Some of them are super fast. But again, can we put seconds on their clock by doing this? Then I hear, well, you know, I can't see as well. Kind of fogs up. Well, if you work with that, some of the newer masks are really good at it, not fogging. Some are, but it doesn't matter. Maybe try forcing doors when in training with a fogged up mask. Maybe learn to do that stuff. And maybe pulling lines, doing all that thing. Anything we can do to put seconds on their clock again. I keep saying that because I'm pretty passionate about it. If it was your kids, you would want that firefighter to come off with a charged hose line. So, what's different about us versus them, right? So why do we not train that way? And one of the best things I ever saw, I say there's a culture in the Pacific Northwest in firefighting that is amazing. Every time I go out there, it's I see consistently, and I see it what I'm trying to say. I see it like honestly. They really are citizens first type of people. So I was teaching this class out there, and there was a fire marshal, right? Big guy, but he's a fire marshal. He's not riding the trucks. So we were doing live fire training, and I looked at his mask, and it had 2 huge keychains on the temple straps, right? 2 huge keychains.
Oh.
And I looked at it, and I said, "What's that for?" He goes, "Oh, I practice my mask up drills with my gloves on." And he's a fire marshal. He doesn't go into burning buildings right now. And I'm like blown away. I'm like,
Jay,
that guy gets it.
He's not a fire marshal. He's a firefighter.
Brother, that's it. That's the truth. That is, amen. You're right. And I love being around that kind of stuff. I'm mad at myself for not thinking of it, but I love being around people that give a shit about their job. And I cannot stand, if you've listened to this podcast any amount of time, anybody's listening, everybody knows I was a bag of shit. I own up to it. And part of my penance is doing this podcast and talking to other people. I'm retired, and I'm going up to Detroit next week for a class, a TIC class. And it's also a live fire class, which is awesome. I won't be able to participate too much because of my damn knees. I just got shots in my knees, so I can't do a whole lot, but I'm going, because I care. I don't know when I'm going to be called back to do anything.
Yeah.
And I wish more people had the right idea of that stuff. Now, I've derailed you so much. We haven't even talked about any things we were supposed to talk about. So maybe we talk a little bit.
We're talking shop, buddy. It doesn't bother me.
I love talking fire department shit. It's amazing. When I say I retire, people say, you retire from the fire service. I'm like, no, you never retire from the fire service. I'm retired from the fire department. I'm still heavily invested in the fire service, teaching and everything else. But the 3 tenets of 3-point firefighter, pride, training, physical fitness, I think physical fitness is one of the most important things you can do. I think that one subject makes you a better firefighter across the board. And I think I could argue that pretty well. You're a big proponent of physical fitness. What is your view on it? I mean, are you saying you have to be in the best shape, like an athlete? You have to be, do marathons and all this shit. What is your idea of being physically fit for a firefighter?
I think much like you talking about the 3 points of 3-point firefighter, I don't think there's one particular line item that a firefighter or EMT or even law enforcement in that for that matter really play into being fit for duty. It's been brought up a couple of times in the particular way of, well, you know what, it doesn't matter if you can bench press a house, it takes more than that to be a firefighter.
Which I can do that, by the way.
What's that?
I can do that. I can do that.
No, dude. You're
Yeah.
just so jacked.
I'm fucking yoked, bro. I'm yoked AF.
I heard that saying, so what? Big deal if you bench press a house. And I've worked with a couple of younger guys that know that I'm into fitness, and hey, you know what? Did you hear I benched this much stuff? And that's great. That is fine, But I've come to the point. This was 2 years ago. I said this to this guy. I said, you know what? That's great that you can bench press a house, but I guess I'd rather you bench press a mobile home and be able to, conserve
endurance.
Your care, have a cardiovascular level, have a good head on your shoulders, because as well as I do, you can have the best conditioned person in the world, but as soon as you involve stress into what they're doing, whether it be, holy shit, I got flames over my head, or, oh my God, I got to force this door and I got the engine crew right behind me waiting to get in, or, oh my God, it's a pulseless non-breather, and I got to carry this bag 40 feet from the ambulance up to the door, and now I've got to do compressions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff is kind of out the door. So, yes, you should have a particular level of strength. Yes, you should definitely have a particular level of cardiovascular capacity. Number two, though, I'm going to bring this into the fitness arena. You've got to have that mental conditioning as well, and that comes with training.
Right.
You're not going to stress out and pick up your heart rate if you're well versed in forcing a door. That's going to be the least of your worries. Hold on, man. Inward swinging door, stand back, adds in, pow, 10% surge. All right, boys, I just did a look in there. I got flames down the hall on the right. Go get them. Okay, that's the least of your worries. Okay, and that automatically brings everything down. The another thing about fitness is, and you're going through this right now. What's your quality of life going to be after retirement?
Absolutely. You got to think long term. Yes.
Absolutely. If you don't take care of yourself, doing what we do, you're going to come across incidences where you're going to hurt yourself. We see this with professional athletes. Earl Campbell. You're familiar with who Earl Campbell is, correct?
No, but I'm going to pretend like I do because I don't know anything about sports.
Okay.
And I've got a couple patented answers that I will use. And you will not know that I do not know the first fucking thing about sports. So go ahead, ask that question again.
So you know who Earl Campbell is, correct?
Name one person that doesn't, brother.
Fair enough.
See, there you go.
But anyways, those of us who don't know, Earl Campbell was probably one of the most punishing running backs in NFL history.
Amen.
And God, this guy was just an animal. But to kind of get to the point, when he does, last time I saw a number of interviews that he did, he had to ride in a cart to go everywhere. He had to sit on a tailgate of his truck to do an interview because his knees were so horrible. Now, that being said, athletic trainers are much different, and sports training is much different now than it was back in the 90s and the 80s and the late 70s, early 80s when he played. But my point being, you take care of yourself while you're doing the job, you're going to evade some of those injuries that you may be left with when you leave the job. I have a lot of hobbies that required me to be mobile. I like to hunt. I like to fish. All right. I got to climb trees, pull boats, row, stuff like that. I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't condition my shoulders or my legs, end up tearing a shoulder and losing mobility in it where I can't draw back a bow or I can't row or anything like that. And that's gonna rob some of my joy. Bringing it back to what we're doing right now in present tense, the people that we serve expect athlete-like performance.
Yep.
Okay. And if you think that everybody that shows up to your house to address your emergency is going to find themselves on a goddamn calendar every year because they're ripped, they are physically able to do the job, they can grab that 24 or even that 35 and carry it by themselves up to the front door, are going to crawl in that window and grab somebody and pull them up by themselves, I got news for you. You are about to be sadly mistaken and disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
But that's
absolutely
what they expect of us. That's what they expect of us.
They one of the big, and I've talked about this before on here, so I apologize if I bring it up too much, but there was a time that what really got me, I was already pretty flipping passionate, but then I got even more so when I was sitting in my office one day and I had my desk, my office was as big as a closet, honestly. It's teeny tiny, but I loved it. I love my office. But it was one whole wall of glass looking out. And one morning I was just looking out, watching the main traffic as people were going to work. And I thought to myself, I'm like, they have an expectation of any situation they get in. If they get their dick caught in a toaster, if they have a run into a train, if their house blows up, they have this knowledge, this feeling in their heart, soul, whatever, that we are going to solve any problem they get into. They don't even worry about it. They go to bed at night thinking we've got them. And the truth of it is, not all of us do. We don't. And that was a big aha moment for me. So I had to I had to find where I was lacking and start boosting those. And I come back to it pretty often. Not too long ago, I guess it was about February. I brought it back around again. I'm like, you know what? I know I'm getting ready to retire. You know, I'm at least off right now, medical. I need to think about that again. And I had to reframe it. And that was a big aha moment for me. I think when it comes to physical fitness, so the question becomes, strength, cardio, but I think it's both. I think it's a good combination of both. I got to be trained as a physical fitness instructor for the fire department, me and 3 other people. And it's through the IAFF, so it's for us. And what I loved about it, it wasn't anything crazy, and it could take somebody from no shape to good shape. But it mentioned, like, day one, it mentioned exactly what you just said. It said, this is not only for, the citizens community and yourself, this is for your long-term retirement. We want you to be physically fit to do all the stuff you want to do when you retire. And that kind of blew me away. I'm like, I had no idea that, health and wellness has come a long way in the fire service. And for that program to mention it like that, and then you just brought it up, and like, my knees are shot right now. I've been able to run for a long time. I mean, I run, but I can't run like I used to. Well, I just got my shots in yesterday, so I'm kind of hoping to get back into that. But it's always on my mind. I'm always working towards that. So what is a reason to not work out? I can't think of one, other than maybe somebody's embarrassed, maybe somebody doesn't know anything about it. I don't know, but honestly, it doesn't really fucking matter when you think of it this way. You need to be in better shape. You need to train. You need to do all these things for them, right? And if you're not doing that, I've got bags of puppet dicks. I get so mad thinking about these people that come to work and it's their day off. I can't stand it. I don't care if you're paid or you're volunteer. If you got the t-shirt, especially if you wear that t-shirt off duty, brother, earn it. If you're a fat piece of shit and you're wearing that t-shirt around, stop it. Just stop it. And then you look at your RIT team, and if your RIT team's garbage, how does that make you feel? Right. Yeah. And I'm learning, I'm rethinking my RIT big time anymore. Because I feel like it could be a wasted resource for a smaller department. It's great to have for us, but now with, the firefighter survey, the rescue survey, Brian Brush and everything, we're learning that firefighters, where victims are, for one, which helps us hone in our skills and our target. But also we're learning that some of these maydays are being solved by people already in this building.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's take those yard gnomes, love it, and let's put them inside, moving lines, searching for people, because only 2 things are going to help them, and that's us getting to them quicker and or the fire going out. So get them out of there, holding up nothing, put them inside. Yeah. Are you going to have a RIT team? No, you're not. Is it dangerous? Yeah, it is. But I feel like for departments with smaller resources, it is an absolute must that you get more people inside. I just think that.
Well, here's my stance on it. So being a member of the Brew City chapter, Brew City Fools, here in Wisconsin, we do a lot of RIT stuff. Sometimes twice a year, typically once a year, we do a RIT under fire. And as well as I do, as you've already articulated, that it's not the RIT team that are making these rescues. You look at the numbers, they're making, last time I checked, less than 8% of these RIT rescues. Who's making the rescues? Self-rescue? Okay, your crew, if you get in trouble, is rescuing you, or just another crew that's inside. And when these training opportunities come up, whether it be me saying, hey, just let you guys know, Brew City Fools is doing a training at such and such day in RIT under fire, bless you. Or hey, tonight we're going to work on, or next week, Monday, we're going to work on RIT skills. People are like, because number one, it's a lot of work. RIT is a lot of work. And number two, they think right away, well, yard gnomes. I'm going to be standing in the front yard, got my hook here, going to stand around and do nothing.
Right.
But looking at those numbers, I tell everybody, RIT skills are not just for the RIT team. And I show them these numbers. Everybody wants to be on the nozzle, okay, as an example. there's a pretty good chance if shit goes down, which, if I remember correctly from, what was it? There was a study, just Google it, Mayday. It's an older article, 2015, line of duty deaths, Mayday, myth versus reality. A lot of those RIT incidents happen within the first 15 minutes. They happen before they have an actual incident commander established. It's with a working command.
Right.
And in that 15 minutes, who's on the fire scene? Your first due crew, that nozzle crew going in, or that search crew. Those people are going to be the ones that are going to be doing that rescue. So it would behoove us, if we'd like to be on the nozzle, if we're on that first due crew, if we're on the second due, okay, that we know those skills. Because I think the mindset is changing, that we got people inside already. And yes, I've heard from a lot of veterans that typically it's going to take more than one RIT crew to remove somebody. Okay. But that being said, hey, anybody who's a thinking firefighter, a thinking officer is going to go, I already got guys inside. Okay. And they're there and they got the nozzle and they're going to be able to have the opportunity to protect themselves from a fire incident while trying to get Breecher's dumbass, out of the hole in the floor. We've already got people there. We know where he's at. We got somebody that can communicate him. Okay, let's keep those guys there to get this RIT thing going, and let's move another crew towards them. Okay, and have that initial crew handle that incident initially. You talk to guys like the movers and shakers of the RIT people of the world, Rob Ramirez, Basil Abraham, guys like that are taking that RIT concept and tweaking it a little bit, and it makes all the sense in the world. So again, that mindset of RIT isn't just for the RIT team. We should all be well versed in RIT skills.
Yes, and a couple of things about that. Here's why I love RIT training as a training officer. I think RIT training is great. Even if we got rid of it, let's just say for smaller departments, like, you know what, RIT will be, something if we could fill it. But getting people on fire in the building is more important. So even if that happens, RIT training is an invaluable tool for a training officer or a company officer even to evaluate informally, like a needs assessment, a skills assessment. Because if you think about it, RIT training involves, it could be stretching lines, search and rescue, air management, patient packaging, on and on and on. I mean, there's so many cool skills involved with RIT that if you want to see how good your company's doing, do RIT drills and see how you'll see, hey man, that guy's, he's literally hugging my leg and the other guy is like on the wall. Now hold on, let's not search like that anymore. Let's talk about that. Or that guy cannot tie a knot for shit, in the smoke. So, that's why I think it's an invaluable training. And if you have the resources for RIT, fine. And here's another thing, put the right people in RIT. And that would piss some people off in the sense of, for example, you would be on RIT. If I was a battalion chief and it was a big fire and I had a RIT team and you guys were, even if you were second in, I'm like, hey man, you're going to be RIT. Why? I want to go in. Yeah, I know you do, but I know you can get people out. I know who's coming next. They're not going to be able to get you out. That kind of thing. So we got to get away from these default settings in the fire service where it's either this or that, because the fire service is now the firefighters a thinking firefighter. We're smart. We're not just, I always say, we're not blue collar anymore, and we're not white collar. We're light blue collar. We are aggressive people that handle our business with our hands. We get down, we get dirty, but we have the ability to think and be able to turn on a dime, and we should capitalize on that. This whole IFSTA says this, that's what we're going to do from now on. And here, we're going to do it exactly how we train. That's not what training is for. Training is not for you to show exactly how things are done. It's to give you a broad picture of how you can manipulate a situation with the skill set you have. I get kind of mad when I think about that default setting. I try to break. I'll give you another one I can't stand. Is the first in engine sitting in front of the house, pulling right in front of the house to pull a line off. And now you've taken 30, 40.
Baby, we need our room.
Yeah, you got like if you got a 105-foot aerial, you took 30, 40 feet off that fucking thing. Right. And every single time I have asked somebody, when I tried to, that was one of the first things I started teaching 12 years ago. they still don't do it. It's because they get wound up and excited and they pull right in front of the building.
Yep.
I'm like, stop it. And one of the number one answers is, I don't know. I just, I stopped, or my captain told me to. I'm like, you're in charge of the truck. Okay. Put that truck where it needs to go. That's your fucking job.
Yep.
It's not his job.
Yep.
That's not his job. If he's trying to do your job, then you're a terrible fucking engineer, or he's a terrible fucking captain.
Yep.
Pull past. You got so much hose on that thing. You can do a lot of damage. Plus, I'm a huge believer in 360s with a tick, if possible.
Okay. That's
3 sides right there, bro. Sure. 3 sides right there. But it drives me insane. And then you got the ladder truck right there that can't reach. And it's just stupid. You put the toolbox in front of the fire. That's what you need to do.
Yep.
And I don't even like truckies. I don't like them at all. But it's a valuable resource you need to put in the right place. And if the first 5 minutes are fucked up, the whole thing's going to be fucked up.
Yeah. Well, something I've been talking about a lot recently, in some of the trainings that I've done and some of the conversations that I've had around the station with my peers too, is that, we can't be robots. The book says this, therefore we shall do this. The book says this, therefore we should do that. We need to be thinkers.
Yes.
Bryce Hickens from Beaver Dam, who has another podcast, I appeared on, we talked about operating in the gray. We operated in the gray, and that gives us an opportunity to do some thinking, which brings up another story that I was never so pissed off in my entire life. One of the moments. So we were doing a house burn, and part of the evolution was we pulled a line in, and I had some young guys with me, and I had a guy on another shift another guy that was probably a little green on the fire side, but wanted to learn. And we went in and we did some things, and we got knocked down, and we started doing overhaul right away. So we start coming out, and the chief said to me that we should be out of the building in 10 to 15 minutes for overhaul. And I sat there for a second. I'm like, either dude forgot how to be a firefighter, or he loves rekindles. Or one of the two. And I sat there and I looked at him and I said, with all due respect, you are wrong. And he kind of sat there like he didn't have a reply. Now, either A, he didn't want to argue with me in front of everybody, or number two, he didn't want to get into it with me because he knew I was right. And I'm just like, this is absolutely freaking the dumb thing to say. Okay, you do overhaul until you get the freaking job done, so you don't have to come back at midnight. Think.
Yeah.
Another thing that this same chief said to me, and I sat for a second, and I just really turned my stomach. Second most pissed off time I got in my life was he said I could teach a monkey to be a firefighter. And I'm like, no, you can't. Okay, you may be able to teach a monkey to pull a line off the engine and go through the front door and just spray water willy-nilly. But are you going to be able to take a look at that front yard and profile? Are you going to be able to look at when you do window-based search, look at it and go, hey, you know what? There's no smoke coming out of this window. And looking at this building here, I don't see a door there, and I don't see a door on this side of the building, the B side. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have doors on the C side wall inside the room, and also on the D side wall. Okay, so there's a chance if there's doors over there, I'm probably going to do that right-handed search, and there's a chance, or at least a greater chance, in my opinion, that people were trying to exit that room, and they might be in a hallway over there or on that side of the room. You can't do that.
Yes.
It was one of the most asinine comments I've ever heard. It's inexcusable.
It's usually, like, to your point, it's usually ignorance. They don't know what they're fucking talking about. They can't admit it, especially in the moment. And, I've also heard people say before, in this exact same conversation, they'll go, well, it's how you present yourself at that moment. You came on way too strong. And I think that's where you fucked up. I'm like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
That's not the answer. The answer is do the right thing, the right time with the right people, period. I don't give a fuck what rank is. I don't give a fuck how long you've been on. If you got a good idea, do it. And to me, the biggest way and this is I know you've heard this, and it's a very glib way to look at RIT, but like at May days in general, how do you handle a May day? Well, you don't have them, right? Sure, but what do I mean by that? First off, get people in physical shape. 2, train.
Mm-hmm.
And under training, I would put no building construction like a sumbitch,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do the 360. The 360 is for them, absolutely. But you know what? It tells you a lot about that building in a short amount of time.
You bet.
And you have a tick, it'll tell you even more stuff. Now, you do those things, you learn building construction and no fire behavior, brother, your chance of Maydays go down incredible, right? And and with the new studies that are out, like under FSRI, there's no reason for any firefighter that has an internet connection not to be better by learning what the science has proved us about our job. And how you apply, can you put a monkey on a hand line and spray water? You absolutely can. Will that monkey know how to water map? How hose streams mechanics work?
Yep.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you'll have monkey shit everywhere. And who wants to walk around a monkey shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking stupid.
Monkey probably likes the fog nozzle too.
Monkey loves the fog nozzle, bro, and not for hydraulic ventilation either. Yes, that was very good. Monkeys use 30-degree fog power cones.
And 3-piece Halligans.
Oh, I loved your picture, by the way, the 3-piece. I saw one break
God.
in front of me in a training one time down in Tennessee.
So,
right in front of me.
The story behind that is it's kind of funny. It's kind of like a moment of vindication for me in my fire career. So I had come to my Deforest, my career department, and had noticed that they had some questionable Halligan choices. Which, whatever, I'm new here. I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to, but I saw some, note to self. And I got the opportunity to teach forcible entry one night. And I have my own personal set of irons. I'm a pro bar guy.
Pro bar, no bar.
Well, absolutely. But anyhow, I brought my tools that night. I took all the hand tools that you might use for forcible entry. And we had a Paratech Hooligan sitting there, big heavy piece of shit, boat anchor. And I just kind of went through and explained to everybody, and I pointed out the merits of each tool and the drawbacks. And I had really pushed this idea that, listen, this thing is a piece of shit, okay? Just look at it. Just look at it, as far as the contour of the tool, what you can and can't do with it. I remember I customized my tool, and one of the guys is like, "Hey, you're going to put shoulders on the other Halligans?" I'm like, "There's nothing to put shoulders on them." But that being said, the joke was that I always had this thing about 3-piece Halligans, and that that'll never happen. And to spite me, they would always grab the 3-piece, whatever. Fuck you guys. So, anyways, we were doing a training at through the Fools in the Fox Valley region, and we had our forcible entry door set up, and we're doing this and that, and all of a sudden I heard, "Oh my God, get Breecher over here!" And I half heard it, and they're like, "Hey, come over here once," and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Check this out," and I walk over, and one of the guys is holding the Halligan up like this. I'm like, "Well, son of a bitch. You need to take a picture with this." And that particular Halligan, I actually researched it. It's called the Firefighter. And it is basically a pressed Halligan. It's a 2-piece, if I remember correctly. It's pressed. It's not even pinned. Okay, it's pressed, and they cover it in a coating to make it look like it's one piece. And that was all the fuel I needed there. So that was on Facebook. That was my profile picture for the longest time. But I mean, this comes back to firefighting in general. It's a craft, right? Okay,
Right.
When you talk to a construction worker, there may be a reason why they like Milwaukee tools or they like DeWalt. Okay, I like to use this analogy from time to time. Woodworking. Okay, if a woodworker is going to go out in the garage, he's going to make a table, and you hand him a piece of, say, for instance, and I don't know if you're in the know, but like balsa wood. Balsa is very light. they use it for making lures. Okay.
Yeah.
Any craftsman worth their salt knows you don't want to make a nice coffee table out of balsa wood. Okay. It's just not built for it. Okay.
Yep.
Coming back to what we do, I understand there's a reason why I like my Pro Bar. There's a reason why I put shoulders on it. There's a reason why I put marks on it. There's a reason why I put a notch in it to pull cylinders. Okay.
Yep.
All these things. That's the part of the craft. There's a reason why I prefer a New York hook over a pike pole, and there's a reason why I get kind of I feel like in gym class when I go down the rope when I see a Lockwood hook. You know, it just
You don't like it?
Oh, I do actually. I really
Okay.
do.
I say I love the Lockwood hook.
Yeah, I do. It's a heavier tool, and it's sexy as hell when it marries with a Halligan.
Is it?
Oh.
Well, you know, in your area, do you know Ty Rondo?
Let me tell you something. I know Ty very well. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I meant to bring this up to you. I'm really flattered to be on your podcast. One of the first podcasts I started following was yours. And the reason why I started following it because Ty was on it.
Right.
And I had that when I first started looking at different opportunities to train. The Brew City Fools came up, and Ty was a member of the group and was on the board and was there at all the trainings. And I started to go to all these trainings, and Ty was there all the time. So Ty was one of those guys that when I was a little baby firefighter, you know, was one of those guys that had an influence on me. So yes, I know Ty.
So, couple of things. Since we're talking tools, and
Yep.
especially the Lockwood hook,
Yep.
Ty Rondo still, as far as I know, has the coolest name in the fire service. I've met some guys with great names, but Ty Rondo, badass name.
Yep.
He's one of the nicest guys ever, period.
Yep.
But I bring him up because like him and another fantastic human being, Mike, Mikey Torres.
Oh, dude,
they work
you get those two guys in a room, and I love Mike too. Mike is the
man, but they work for Leatherhead, right?
Yeah.
And so they actually do the work. They know what they're fucking talking about, and then Leatherhead listens.
Yep.
I mean, that's amazing. So go back to your story there. You know, if you got to your tools, everyone says, well, you know, it's a shitty carpenter blames the tools. No, sometimes you got shitty tools. And to go along with what you're saying, what gets me mad and wants me to put together a whole big bag of puppet dicks for people to eat is the 6-pound axe. That's good for, and I may be getting you mad, but you should have a minimum of an 8-pound axe on a fucking fire truck. The rest are those are for 6-pound axes for like, you know, parades and shit. And where I was at, everybody had, you know, every one, you have a married set of irons, you'll have a 6-pound axe. I'm like, what's the point of this? I mean, it's simple physics, really. And if you know the Halligan bar, if you know all the use, it's my favorite tool, by the way. By itself, it's my favorite tool. But you throw an 8-pound in there, and you've got something. You've got something. You could do some damage. You can get in and out of places. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I've seen those 3 pins. I've seen them break in front of me, and the you know I hear people say all the time, you know, I use them all the time. They're great. No, they're not great. It's a poor design. They're not intuitive like a Paratech or I'm sorry, a Pro Bar. You know, they're not really made by firefighters for firefighters. It's like somebody saw a market. Every time I hear the word hooligan, by the way, I just I hate that it's so close to Halligan. It's such an insult if you think about it.
Marketing, right?
Oh my God, it's terrible. But anyway, that gets me going. And people like to, you know, go back to training. If you don't use those tools a lot in training, you're going to forget it. I mean, you're going to, you know, you're going to there is a what do you want to call it? There's a flow, right? You want to get that flow state, right? And the people, here's what kills me: the people that I have seen be the laziest in the fire service, hate training more than anybody in the fire service, are avid golfers. What does that mean? These are the people that go out and go to the driving range constantly. And you can even ask, and I've done this. I'm like, why do you go to the driving range so much? Oh, well, this guy's, you know, I'm trying to get better and I'm trying to build up that muscle memory. I'm like, okay. And I kind of start shaking my head, and they're like, "Oh, I know what you're getting at." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, it's the same thing. But again, that's for you. You're trying. Your ego wants to make you better. I love golfing. I love trying to get better and all that. That's not what I'm getting at. Love it. But the people that are the biggest bags of shit and don't want to train love golfing, or they or they're big hunters and they spend all their time, all their money, everything. They do everything they can exactly. But you know the minutia of hunting. You know what it takes. It's like muscle memory to you. It's an easy translation to what we do, and yet they don't do it.
Right.
And it drives me insane. And again, I keep putting on my disclaimer. I was that guy for a long, long time. But I'm sorry. I think you lose that responsibility once you become an officer.
Yep.
I can't stand lazy officers. Can't stand them.
Yep.
Hate their guts.
Yep.
And there's no argument that you can give me why a captain should be sitting on a couch at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, give me one. Yeah,
Yep.
Don't tell me one, and I'll tell you right now, it's not true.
Well, I tell you what, I've had my share of lazy officers in the past, and their body of work shows. You're not fooling anybody. The one thing that I like to say all the time is in the fire service, those of us that have been doing this long enough, we know who the show ponies are, and we also know who the workhorses are.
Yep.
So you're not fooling. You may fool, the noobs or people who maybe haven't been with the department very long, but those of us that have been around long enough or know something catch on pretty quick. You can't hide. You can't hide, especially on the fire ground. It'll smell you like a bad fart.
You know what? I've had so many firefighters tell me that the one thing that firefighters are really, really good at across the land is smelling bullshit.
Yep.
And you're not going to pull over or pull bullshit onto a firefighter because they're going to notice it.
Yep.
And I don't know. I see new guys working with known bags of shit officers, right? And it kills me. And the answer is usually, well, what do you expect us to do? We've got to put him somewhere. I'm like, no, I'm not saying don't put him there, but why don't you train your captain? Oh, he's been on for 30 years. He's set in his ways.
Yeah.
He gets a paycheck to do a fucking job. I'm sorry. That's just how it is.
I've got a story. Three examples of that, and I think we talk about mentors in the fire service. Okay.
Yes.
Very critical individuals, whether it's a senior man or an officer. There's two things that really jump out at me. Number one, so at my part-time department, we have interns, and I think it's a cool program. If you want to get into the fire service and you're a young guy or gal, okay, and you want to get your foot in the door and not only get those certificates, but also get some on-the-job training, that's the way to go, baby. But we had a guy a couple of years ago at my part-time department. I remember it was like it was yesterday. We're out checking the engine in the morning, and he just kind of comes up to me nonchalantly, and he goes, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about this?" And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, "The saw." Okay, now the guy had been with the department for 6 months, okay, since the internship started. He goes, "Can you tell me about this chainsaw?" And I'm like, what do you want? What do you want to know? Because I'd seen him out there with the saw in the past. But I'm like, well, what do you want to know? Well, like, how do you start it? And I sat there for a second, and I'm like, are you shitting me? But before I got mad, I stopped for a second. And I've gotten better at this over probably the past year and a half. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to do the right thing. And I walked over, and then I stopped for a second, and I remember who his officer is. Remember who his mentor is. Now's an opportunity for you to change his situation. Okay, let's do chainsaw 101. Okay, this is a chainsaw, this is the bar, so on and so forth. This is how you start it. You want to choke it first. This is where the oil goes. The oil is for the bar, it's not to mix. Speaking of which, this is the fuel goes here. It's a 50-to-1 mix. Do you understand all those things? And I sat there for a second, and I was just like, okay, I'm not surprised. and it's not his fault. Maybe he should
Good
have
on
said
you.
something, but it's not his fault. And now it's time for me to kind of tilt his career in a better direction. Lazy
Yep.
officer. Lazy
Yeah,
officer.
but you know what's really awesome about this is you realized it, one, and two, imagine what it took for him to want to admit he didn't know it,
Sure.
and to you.
Sure.
So you
Sure.
were presented with an
Mhm.
opportunity and you jumped all over it, man.
Yep.
That's great. I wish it's just like me with the truck work stuff. When I was trying to learn truck work, not to be a truckie, but just to be better.
Sure.
It takes a lot. I was embarrassed to even consider asking for help. But the main guy that helped me on there, quite a few did, but there was one in particular, a fantastic human being, great. He just got a great VES save, window initiated save. Him and his crew fucking knocked it out of the park. My understanding is at the same department, there was no, like, they didn't give him a pin or any notoriety for him and his crew. But ironically, the number 2 position, I believe, gave his son a medal and made a big deal about when he had a save.
Yep.
So I don't know what that's all about, but this guy doesn't care about it. He doesn't care about awards, but it's just want to demonstrate the kind of atmosphere possibly.
Sure.
But he did it, fucking kicked ass, but he's the guy that I went to. And I had probably in the fire service at that time, I probably had 12 years on the job.
Okay.
And I was embarrassed to ask a lot of questions, but Sammy never made me feel, well, that's not true. His informal rule is 3 times and then he calls you dummy.
Okay.
Dummy. I already told you that, dummy. And which is funny. It's a great joke. But yeah, he would, I would go to him and I just, like, he'd be sitting down. I'd say, hey, brother, teach me about your airbags.
Yep.
All right. So we go there and we'd set him up, do everything. And we like to talk about a story where I wanted to cut a hole in the roof.
Yep.
And I was on the engine though.
Yep.
And so I'm like, Sammy was beat. He'd already been doing it. And I'm like, Sammy, let's go up and cut a hole in that roof. He goes, man, I'm beaten. That roof is not the best. I'm like, come on. He goes, fine. So he goes up there and we go up there and the roof is like, you're on a trampoline.
Yeah.
It's that bad. And he almost cuts his foot off and he's like, get off this fucking roof, Barnes. I'm like, all right, let's go. But yeah, all this to say, it's hard for people in higher rank, or in my situation, I had more time on the job to go to a younger person to ask for that help.
Yeah.
He didn't make me feel stupid any time. Of course, he did the 3 dummy thing, which is a great joke. I love when he did that. But, uh-oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
All right. But he took that opportunity and he helped me. And I would come to him more and more. I got more and more comfortable and I did everything I could to get better at the job. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Mentors are really important. Another thing that, because at my, I'm not even going to go there, but the point being, there have been instances where I've seen people come into departments and say to myself, you know what, that guy's got potential. That gal's got potential over there. And all of a sudden, after a while, you notice they start associating with the department shitbag. And kind of keep an eye on that one. Because we've got potential for this individual that's here, and he's hanging out with you know who. And I would rather not that well be poisoned, because we're going to lose a valuable member, somebody that I think has a lot of potential, and it's based on a true story. I've already had contact with that firefighter that has potential, and he's asked me some questions and I've given him some insight and he feels comfortable, but then he's also fraternizing with the shitbag, who the shitbag and I have some history, and he's fucked as far as I'm concerned. He's not going to get an endorsement from me. He hasn't gotten an endorsement from me, which you know as well as I do. The fire service, as big as it is, it's very small, and we all know each other. And if we don't know each other, we know somebody that knows somebody. So, you watch your words. You know, a lot of people are watching, and your reputation is going to follow you, and people know
Yep.
people. So,
You know, and one of the things I've struggled with
Mhm.
is when I try to reinvent myself, when I try to do the right thing,
Yep.
I had quite a few haters that were like, "Yeah, you did this before, you did that." I'm like, "Yes."
Mhm.
And I've told this story before.
Mhm.
It's nothing I'm proud about, but when
Yep.
I went to college a million years ago,
Yep.
um, and failed out miserably, by the way,
Yep.
I remember I would drink and drive.
Mhm.
Not hammered, but I've
Yep.
done it a couple of times, and it's embarrassing. I
Mhm.
don't recommend it.
Yep.
So I would use that example. I'd be like, okay, so I used to drink and drive,
Mhm.
you know, late 80s.
Mhm.
I should not say it. So I can't tell people not to drink and drive now
Right.
just because I fucked up.
Right.
No, I made mistakes. I learned
Mhm.
from my mistakes. And
Mhm.
now it's my job to make sure you don't make the same mistakes.
Sure.
That you don't have to make my
Sure.
mistakes.
Sure.
And that's what our job is now.
Sure.
You know, I love hearing you talk about it because you're very open and honest with yourself,
Mhm.
and you're passionate about the job. That's why I wanted you on here. I mean,
I
known you
appreciate
for a little
that.
while now, and we need people like you to do that kind of stuff.
It's the best job in the
To
world, man. Best job in the
I'll,
world.
I feel bad for fighter pilots and astronauts because they don't get to do what we
Same
do,
thing, people.
bro.
Yep.
Bro,
Yep.
I believe that. I believe it wholeheartedly. You know, if I meet an astronaut, I'm gonna say, man, whew, you came in number 2, man. You could have been a firefighter. What are you, crazy?
Well, the
Oh
funny
man.
thing is, somebody had, I can't remember who said it or how it was pitched, but you know, you're throwing a party, or you're whatever, you're throwing a party and the cops show up. Everyone's like, oh man, the cops are here. Oh my god! But if the fire department shows up, like, hey man, fire department's here. What's up? You
Yeah.
know, that
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I'm like, yeah, you're back, your house is on fire. Oh, you're here, you know, something like that. But people react differently to us.
Right.
And I've got a lot of friends that are cops. You know, there's more good cops out there than bad,
Yep.
110%.
Yep.
But
They're not being caught on film.
I'm sorry.
But good cops are not being caught on film. That's the bad part.
Absolutely.
We know there's good cops out there.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's the best job in the world, and I feel like me getting into this line of work, I tripped my own clumsiness. I tripped over myself into a bucket of awesome. You
Yeah.
know? And here I am.
You know, in Kentucky, we would call that if you fall into something that it's very beneficial to you, we'd say, I'm gonna do a better Kentucky accent, even though I'm from Kentucky. I'll
Okay.
Kentucky it up a little bit.
Sure.
You done fell into a whole box of dicks and come out sucking on a titty.
I've never heard that one before. That paints a very interesting picture, but I know where you're coming from.
Yes, yes. Well, again, it's Kentucky, so that's where I learned a lot of my folksy phrasings.
Okay.
I've enjoyed this so very much, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I know you're a fan of the show, and how do I end the show now?
Well, you talk about pranks.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm not the biggest prankster in the world. I like to have fun. People will tell you that I do bring a sense of humor to me with work. But there is one, I guess, that I'm particularly proud of, actually. So,
All right.
my chief at my full-time department likes to make fun of the coffee I drink. He calls it his foo-foo. I drink foo-foo coffee. I'm not a Starbucks fan. I'll give a little plug here for Door County Coffee. They've got a brand of coffee, a Highlander Grog, sometimes Turtle in a Cup. I'll have that too. But anyhow, it smells good, and I get compliments. Well, my chief is not a coffee drinker and all that, and he always, oh, BJ drinking his foo-foo coffee. I make it a point too, and I get called into the principal's office. I make a cup to go in there. That way, things are tilted in my favor, so to speak, and he gets uncomfortable. So now we're kind of even playing field. But I digress. When after the first year I got hired there, he had left his office for some reason, and I'm like, oh man, what an opportunity to just pull some kind of shit on him. So I came back to he hates my coffee. So what I did is I went and I actually had some ground up, and I went into the EMS supply room and I got a bunch of 4x4s and laid them out, put the grounds inside of them and made like a little pouch. And I taped it up, And I went and got my secretary. I'm like, hey, I want you to witness this so you know there's no funny business going on in his office. And Kay's like, what? I'm like, just humor me, follow me. So we go into the office, and I took that little pouch of coffee and I taped it under his desk and put it in the corner. And I quick got out of there, and as the day went on, some comments were made about the coffee and all that, and finally came to fruition that, okay, I go, look under your desk, and he looks and he goes, all right, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. But beyond that, I'm really not much of a prankster. Yes, I've taken coats from probies that they've left their gear out and hung it way up in the apparatus bay, and they're like, "Where's my coat at? I don't know where my coat is at." But that's probably off the top of my head as good as I get. So,
well, just the fact that it was to the chief,
yeah,
I think elevates it a little bit.
Right. And
I wouldn't do that with my chief at all.
Sure. And to my chief's credit, he's got a pretty good sense of humor. I have the luxury of working at two departments where both my chiefs have a pretty good sense of humor, well, without being unprofessional, of course.
Right.
But to be able to do that, I got to feel good about that, right?
So, oh yeah, that's a win. That's a win.
Yep.
Brother, I appreciate your time. I've had a blast talking to you. Something tells me, I don't know what it is, I got a feeling you might be back on the show.
I'd love to be back on the show. Hey, question for you. You're going to be down at FDIC, right?
Yes, sir.
You going to go see DJ Stone?
Oh yeah, I was just looking at the when he's speaking.
Yep.
And yeah, I want to see the grab analysis.
I'll save a chair for you because I loved his podcast as well. I thought that was really cool. I thought
when he talked about his Fort Walton.
Yeah.
That was off the cuff too. I mean, that was not our plan.
Yeah.
And it just hit me. And he was the coolest guy ever. He's like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And he went through the whole thing. It was amazing. There's times where I forget I'm on a podcast. I'm even hosting a podcast, like with Aaron Fields. It happened. A couple other people where I'm such a fanboy, right? And that was with DJ Stone. I was just like, listen to every word, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta ask a question. Excuse me. I get kind of, I just can get lost in some of these guys. But yes, I will be up there. I will be Fire Facilities has me up there. I'm doing live podcasts on Thursday. And yeah, I've got some games I'm going to play up there. If you find me at certain times, I'll be putting clues into social media.
Wow.
I'll be getting challenge coins and stickers and maybe some shirts and stuff like that. So I'll see you up there for sure.
Absolutely. Yep. I'll be down there Wednesday with Brew City at the Brotherhood Bash there that night. And then I'll be spending the day on Thursday, kind of bumming around during the day, and I got to head back that night. But it'd be fun to be back down there. I haven't been down to FDIC in a couple of years. It'll be fun to reconnect with some folks and establish some relationships and just be fire nerds.
That's it. Have drinks with other firefighters and talk fireman shit.
Yep.
Brother, thank you for your time. You stay safe.
No, you as well. It's been a pleasure, Jake.
See you, brother.
Bye.
Hold on. Let's see here. I got to hit end session. Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, industry-leading designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures for more than 30 years. Make your training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information.